Are you ready?
Yes, it's the weekend hangover. Holy shit, it's
man.
episode 9 already.
I'm Ricky Bobby, as
I'm
you
Dustin.
see down there.
Yeah, it says
amateur
right
slow
there.
guy in Arma racing my Triumph Daytona.
I'm the
got
pretend
the fast
motorbike guy, TrackDaz, whatever.
Man,
So,
welcome.
how was the weekend? Obviously, we watched a bunch of races, yeah?
Oh, yeah. And, just chilling with the family, trying to get some family time. Remember, I was supposed to be in Oklahoma still, but yeah, it's just enjoying time with family. My kid's birthday, my son Braxton had his birthday party Saturday, so it was awesome. We got to throw down and bust out the Hot Wheels. So yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time. What about you, man? Saw you.
Dude, no shit. We went to Metalachi Saturday night. And yeah, you get the water glass. That's great. Yeah, I have water too, but mine actually has water in it.
No, this is not. This is my hydration drink.
Moonshine. Okay.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So we go to Metalachi, and then the next morning I got up at the butt crack of dawn and drove to Buttonwillow to ride one of those awesome 2024 R1s again.
Yeah.
The whole fleet. It's great to have you just pull one out like a crayon.
Yeah.
I want to paint with this crayon today. Yeah. So but at Metalachi, no shit, we're sitting there waiting for the show to start. There's some weird, I don't even want to talk about the opening band. But Lily sees this dude who she thinks looks like one of the band leaders running out. She ran outside to chase him down.
Yeah.
Dude, she goes out there, steals like the poster off a door, gets the dude to sign it.
Oh, Lily.
Yeah. And then, then the guy is like, "Hey, do you want the rest of the guys to sign it?" She's like, "Hell yeah."
Yes.
So, no shit. The dude goes back, chases all the band members down, and comes back with this fucking poster with all their signatures on it. Like, we know fucking awesome. They are. But for anybody that doesn't know who Metalachi is, just do a YouTube search. You'll see it's a band that dresses up like their Motley Crue from 1983. And they sing metal songs and shit from the 80s mariachi style. So
that's awesome. I gotta check this out.
Frankie Garcia turned me on to that shit.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
And
for sure.
Oh my god, yeah, like, so there you go.
That's
Lily
awesome.
For the win. That's what I'm seeing in the comments. It's really funny.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and then obviously getting to ride all day, man. I just love riding motorbikes, dude.
Yeah, so, I got a lot of stuff brewing, so I'm kind of chilling on the motorbike stuff, but sooner or later I'll be at Pittsburgh. So
yeah. So I guess we should talk about GP stuff. Yeah,
I know, dude. What a great weekend! Who's this guy?
Hey guys!
Holy shit!
Michael Hill,
oh my god! There's two of us with hats, and he can't reach him to steal them.
I know. I'm just like, please, come on, give me the hats, man. I am king of the freeloaders after all.
I know.
Oh man,
the mic on the mic segments are so awesome, especially when
thank you.
I know. My buddy Kirk, the wine guy, was in his Rossi hat that you wanted. He was like, "Not gonna get it, buddy." Sorry.
I tried though. God loves a try, and I did try. So.
Yeah, I mean, awesome. I've seen you hang out with and steal shit from those CFE dudes.
Oh, yeah,
they're the best, right?
Yeah. But how cool is it to have fans that are so off the wall, batshit crazy, but also know their stuff as well? Like, I've actually talked to them away from when we're doing the crazy stuff at the podium. They're knowledgeable stuff, they love bike racing.
The whole gang, really. I mean, I always, when I see them, I try to hook them up with whatever I can, dude. Like, like some dude gave us a jersey.
Nick, was it Nick Duke or?
Not gonna say who it was.
Oh, okay.
Some dude gave us a jersey for the team, and I was like, "Hey, do you think I could give it to one of these guys?" And they're like, "Fuck yeah, dude!" So like, try to break everything off, stickers, whatever we got,
Yeah,
so,
I met him at.
Very good. I have to say though, I've kind of stepped it up a little bit. Not just hats anymore. I don't know if you watched an episode of Mike on the Mic. I don't even know if you actually know even how Mike on the Mic even came about. I don't know if we have time. I can tell you the story.
Dude, say your thing, bro.
Yeah. So basically, my hero growing up was Wayne Rainey. I mean, I'm sure for many listening and many watching, it was the same. I got to meet him in 1988 when he was teammates with Eddie Lawson. Went to the Grand Prix at Donington. Anyway, I won't bore you with the whole story, but it was pissing down with rain. Nobody else was standing there other than Eddie and Wayne. And Wayne was kind enough to give me a poster, which I've still actually got in my office at home.
Oh, that's awesome.
So fast forward to sort of 2014, 2015, World Superbikes. Obviously, I've been working in World Superbikes now for about 12 or 13 years and do a kind of a different gig there to what I do in MotoAmerica. Anyway, long story short, we went to an event with the then sort of CEO of the circuit for a barbecue the night before the World Superbike race started. And lo and behold, who is there? It's Wayne Rainey and his wife. So I'm like walking in and I'm like saying to my Spanish colleagues, I'm like, fucking Wayne Rainey. Like, I'm like, oh my God, this is like awesome. Like jet lag to hell. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I'm like, that's bloody Wayne Rainey. Anyway, we get chatting and he's super nice. And I never normally get starstruck, but I was with him. Like I was super shy, like wouldn't even open my mouth. And they're like, just go and talk to him. And I'm like, nah, man, it's Wayne Rainey. I can't. Anyway, I'd like a beer or whatever. Went over and said hello to him. And I said, look, you won't remember who I am, but in 1988, this is what happened. And you were kind enough in the rain to give me an autograph and, wow. blah, 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 blah. And he was super nice. We chatted for about 5 minutes or so. And then sort of fast forward then to 2018. And World Superbike was at Laguna Seca. And at the end of the weekend, I remember Wayne coming across. We did an interview with him on the paddock show where we interview all the riders. And Paul Carruthers and Sean Bice had obviously been working hard on bringing all the American guys onto the stage just to try and make a bigger show. And I'll never forget it. And Wayne was just like, do you ever fancy doing any work in MotoAmerica?
Oh, wow.
And I was kind of like, well, it depends who's asking me, And he's like, well, me. I'm like, I thought it was a joke. I honestly thought he was just winding me up because I'd been talking shit for 8 hours a day, like all weekend. And I'm just thinking like just doing my normal crazy thing on the stage and commentary and all that. Yeah. And then literally about 2 or 3 days later, I got an email from him and there was an offer and do you fancy coming to do this? And he explained a little bit about what MotoAmerica Live Plus was. And right. He's like, we know you've done TV work. Do you fancy doing it? So, fast forward to 2019, I started doing a couple of races and spoke with Chuck Axland, obviously from MotoAmerica. Yeah. And then they were talking about how to fill the lunch break. And I kind of said it tongue in cheek because I have a bit of a theatre background and stuff like that. So I was like, don't build a stage because the series is growing and, spend the money in other things, but just give me a little body cam. So my idea was in my head, get a little body cam and for 10 or 15 minutes, just let me go loose in the paddock. And just let's do an unscripted kind of lunchtime chat. Yeah, dude. And that was the idea. But they didn't have a body cam. So they ended up giving me a cameraman just to follow me around for 15, 20 minutes. And then obviously the internet just blew up and was like, who the hell is this? Like, we've never seen anything like this in our life. Like, what the hell is going on? And then, look at it now. We get like 1 hour segments and it's just gone completely nuts. And I have to say, like, I'm really fortunate and really sort of privileged with all the jobs that I do, all the championships that I do. But I do love the mic on the mic segment because it's kind of my time. It's
real too.
Yeah, it's real. Like, it's scripted. A lot of people say to me, like, is it scripted? The only thing that is scripted, and this is honest truth, the only thing that we ever decide is whereabouts in the paddock we're going to start. And then I just say to them, tell me when we're halfway through, tell me when we've got 3 minutes left. And everything that you see on Mike on the Mic is completely unscripted, whether it's stealing hats, whether it's putting Bobby Fong's cheese sandwich in the bin at whether it's Loris Baz writing on my head and then Melissa Paris having to use brake cleaner to get it off. That wasn't planned. That was all completely unscripted. And it's good. It's just a shame this year I can only do 5 of the races because they clash with my other commitments. But 5 is better than none, so we'll make the most of it.
Yeah,
wow.
For sure.
Well, you do such a great job with that. And then, Lily and I when we were in Portugal a couple years ago with World Superbike with the Attack Boys, we got to hang out with you and talk to you quite a bit there. Man, you're a busy guy at World Superbike, paddock.
Yeah, and I think you've obviously seen it live, and I think again what we do in World Superbike now is completely different. So instead of me commentating in a commentary box, I do it live on a stage. So we do it live in front of sometimes 2,000 or 3,000 people. The event that we do at Donington, people turn up with deck chairs and they don't move from the stage because the way we've kind of designed it in World Superbike is that rather than having the fans wandering around, we'll make all the entertainment in one area. We have the podiums now in the paddock. So that's. Again, in the last 10 years, since I've been sort of managing it, it's changed a lot. This year, we've got a lot of new things. And like you said, I think when you came over with Jake and the Attack guys, we were kind of just getting to that point where I think we've kind of got something that's a bit unique and special. And I'm quite fortunate there that I have a great team behind me. We've got 5 or 6 guys and girls working on the paddock show, and the team that I work with in Barcelona kind of trust me enough to know that I'm not going to say something on stage that's going to potentially put the series into disrepute. Like even now, I'm going to be on my best behavior. It's going to be down to you two to fuck it up.
Yeah, that's our job, right?
That's our job. Right?
Come on.
Well, I will say, World Superbike has done an amazing job putting out a really great show for the fans and having, all the guys going to the podium right through the crowd, and then they have the crowd surround. I think that's probably one of the best additions to a World Championship series, to allow, kind of like how the sprint races are having the stage now, and they know that they have to get the crowd involved.
Yeah, I should have sent them an invoice for that, shouldn't I? All these ideas that they're copying from World Superbike, we should send them an invoice.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like when I went to GP was 7 years ago. I was at Austin, and it's like lockdown. You got to pay the extra $250 to do the backstage paddock pass, and then you get your you get to see Kenny Roberts and all the big names, and you're sitting there watching everybody go by. It's an amazing thing, but the rest of the public doesn't get to see it, and I think that sucks. Right. MotoAmerica is really great because you walk to the paddock, you see everybody, all the bikes are going around, and there's so much access. And I always try to promote all my friends, like, dude, go to Road Atlanta, go to a local motorcycle race with MotoAmerica. Right. You will see all the key players. Everything's right there. You can walk up and see them working on the bikes. Even Supercross is not even like that because you got to get the pit pass and you can only see a little bit of it.
Right. It's funny because it's like I went to the very first World Superbike race that was ever held at Donington Park in 1988. I was just a kid. I mean, prior to that, I hated bikes. And again, I'm probably going to, I promised myself on here, I wasn't going to open myself up, but now you guys have kind of relaxed. And I haven't even got a beer, and I don't even drink. So it's kind of like, I think I'm just going to spill my guts and everyone's going to see which I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I always remember my dad used to do trials on motocross. And then up until I was about, I don't know, I want to say kind of 6, maybe like 6 or 7, I hated bikes. So my dad would have a street bike. I was scared of the noise. True story. I'm actually named after Mike Hailwood, who for me is,
wow.
That's true. My dad's hero was Mike Hailwood. So my mum wanted to call me Richard. My dad was like, no, because he'll end up getting called Dick his entire life. You know what I mean? And I was like,
Dick on the mic doesn't sound.
I get called worse than that, So, and another true story, which my mum will kill me, but it's in a book. I'm actually writing a book at the minute.
Awesome.
There's a chapter in the book about how I got my name and everything else. My mum will kill me for this because I know she was probably going to be watching it or whatever. I was actually conceived on the Isle of Man during the Isle of Man TT.
Awesome.
Of course you were.
Yes. I mean, that's what my mum said. She said that she was completely pissed and my dad carried her up 11 flights of stairs to get back to the hotel room. And then, 8 months later, here we go,
Yeah, that's awesome.
But no, joking aside, oh Jesus, man, I'm gonna get so killed in the morning.
No, this is awesome
because I'm in the US right now. They're gonna kill me. But it is what it is, right? It's a story,
dude.
And even if it's not true, I mean, my mom told me it's true. I mean, I believe my mom, right?
Hey,
my mom's like a proper Christian living lady. She's not gonna lie to me, I don't even swear in front of my mom. How crazy is that? Like, I'm almost in my 40s, and I don't even say shit in front of my mom.
I don't either.
She still slap me. It's crazy. And you know what, as well? Like when you were a kid, like if you were naughty as a kid, like me and my sister, I have a really good relationship with my sister. I get on with her really, really well. But as kids, as you do when you're growing up, right? We were terrible. Like we played like worldwide, WWF wrestling. We even did one game where I made her stand in front of the open fire for as long as she could before she started screaming, and like her night dress caught fire. Like I was horrific. We played Winter Olympics. And we did the bobsled, and it was her going down the stairs head first, in a sleeping bag. How fast can you go?
I still have a scar on the back of my hand from contests like that, dude.
No, dude, I was a little bastard. Honestly, I was horrific. Yeah. But when you're a kid, like, and you kind of like, I don't know what it's like in the States, but my dad's actually a little bit more placid than my mom. Like my mom would always be the one that would smack the back of my legs or shout at me. And it was always those words, you wait till your dad gets home. And that was it. Once that threat was there, I mean, my dad is the most placid, calm guy. Like, I don't think he's ever slapped anybody in his life. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's even more of a pussy than me. And that's saying something because I'm a big pussy, right? But, it was just that threat of it just being,
which you didn't know.
And I was like, oh, shit. Like, no. I'm not going to even risk that, Yeah, but kids don't do that now, do they? I mean, I'm taking this over.
I don't know. Kids are pussies now. Kids are pussies right now. I mean, dude, I remember being more afraid of my mom. My mom was crazy, dude. Like, she was like, oh, I'm getting the belt. And like, I don't know. When she just turned red, it's like she didn't know when to stop, So
I was more bothered about my mom actually slapping me, but it was just the threat that dad was going to find out. And it was like, God,
Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to the original story, you're going to find this is going to go for an hour, right? We're going to
who cares? Like,
I'm not even getting paid tonight. Do you know what I mean? Like, Jesus,
Jesus
paid
Christ,
by the word.
We aren't either, bro.
No, but seriously, I went to the very first race. So my dad had said, do you want to go to a race? I was like, no. Anyway, we ended up going to the World Superbikes. And again, like going back to your point about how open Superbikes is, I think it's always been like that, because I remember 1988, I got a picture with the late Joey Dunlop, who was racing there that weekend. I sat on Fred Merkel's bike, and Fred went on obviously to win the World Championship. Fabrizio Pirovano's Yamaha. It's a funny story. Fabrizio Pirovano's daughter now works in World Superbikes.
Oh, wow.
So I've actually got a picture of me as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old on his Yamaha in my office at home. So for me, the thing that changed for me with getting into racing was the fact of this is actually really cool. Like I wasn't really a sporty kid. I mean, I did, running and all that kind of stuff at school, but I wasn't really into soccer or rugby. It never really interested me. Where when I went to Superbikes, it's like, this is actually really cool. I'm here with my dad, who's like now one of my best friends, and it's kind of sharing something with my dad that was like, I never thought I would have that. And then I'm walking around seeing all these bikes. And then obviously back in the day, there was 2-strokes racing as well. So you had the old 250s riding, and you smell the Castrol 2-stroke oil. And I'm like, this is actually really cool. And then like you fast forward now, kind of like 3 decades later or whatever. And it's like, damn, like I'm working in the World Championship, promoting the sport. And, I say it all the time, and it's not, I mean, it is a bit cliche, but it's genuinely how I feel. I try with everything that I'm doing, whether it be mic on the mic or commentary with MotoAmerica, whether it's stuff I've done in MotoGP, whether it's the job that I have in World Superbikes. If just one small kid, not even a kid, if just one fan or one new person comes into a race and leaves with a smile going, that was a great weekend. That was me, so that's why I'm always like I am when I see the little kid.
Done, right?
That's why I'm like I am with the kids in Mike on the Mic. How old are you? Where are you from? Like, have you ever seen a race? I don't know if you saw the show last week in Barber. Little 10-year-old kid had never seen a race in his life, and he's just like, his eyes are wide open. I'm like, that was me. And then, would you like to sit on a bike? Have you ever met a world champion? No. And then that was purely by chance. There's Ben Spies. Yeah. And then Ben takes this kid off and goes and sits him on PJ's bike. Like, that's something that kid's going to remember for the rest of his life.
Hugely.
I remember just like that's what I love that part of the job. I genuinely do,
Yeah, dude.
I think it was at Pittsburgh last year or 2 years ago that you were interviewing some young girls who had just showed up because it was just something to do, and they're like, "Yeah, we're not even from here," or like, "We came in because this show's in town. We had nothing to do."
They're like, holy shit, I'm on TV.
Yeah, Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's funny now, like you say, like it's gone from being this kind of little thing of is it going to work to I even have the cameraman now. Like I catch up with Steve and Remy, the 2 cameramen that work with me on Mike on the Mic, and they're loving it because they're joking at how many steps they're going to do and trying to outdo each other because one does Saturday, one does Sunday, and they're just like, damn, like we walked about 6.5 miles during that 1 hour. And I'm like, shit, we did actually do a lot of walking, but it's just so fun. Like I think it's showing a different side of racing. You don't just do that in
MotoAmerica too, man. Like I've seen you on stage in World Superbike thing, and dude, you had like 4 or 5 rando people on the stage, and they were getting the trivia wrong, and so you were like giving them hints and shit. You're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna give him a t-shirt. Like, hey, woo!
It's like, just go on the grid anyway. Like you're meant to answer 5 questions, but none of you have a clue what the hell's going on. You're all drunk, so just like there's a grid pass. Go and enjoy yourself.
Yeah,
let's go. That's awesome.
Did you? I don't remember. I don't know if we talked about it, but when we were in Portugal, there was those guys that like stripped naked into the pool.
Yeah. That's a regular occurrence at a lot of races.
Like, what is that?
Yeah, we've had streakers on the paddock show before. We've had, to be fair, I mean, both me and Axel Bassani have been semi-naked on the paddock show at the same time. So let me reiterate this. That sounded really dodgy. Let me just stay the fact. At Donington, at the UK round, we partner with Two Wheels for Life, which is a charity which obviously works in MotoGP as well. But I'm an ambassador for them. I host the Day of Champions in the UK. And probably about 4 or 5 years ago, we linked up in World Superbikes. And when they said they wanted to do an auction of auctioning off like riders' helmets and leathers like they do in MotoGP, I randomly, as only Michael Hill would, right?
Yeah.
I was like, why don't we just turn up the stakes and why don't we have like a concert? And they're like, we don't have any budget. And I was like, don't worry about it because the riders will sing.
Yeah, that's right.
And everyone's like, no, they won't. And I'm like, yeah, they will. And then we had Jordi Torres singing Elvis songs. Then last year we had, or the year before, we had Alvaro Bautista doing the Macarena. And everyone's just like, how the hell do you put this show together? And I'm like, I don't know. I just ask the riders and they do it. You know, I mean, we raised £23,000 last year in 25 minutes just from riders singing. And then it ended up with Axel Bassani being on the stage. And basically there was this, he had like a limited edition Ducati t-shirt or whatever.
Yeah.
And somebody shouted out, I'll give you £200 for it. So I just started unzipping it off him. I was just like, take your bloody top off, mate. So we ended up selling this like zip top. And then he's now stood there. It's getting, obviously we're in the UK. It's probably 9 o'clock at night. You know, it's starting to get really
it's a bit
cold.
nippy.
It's getting really cold. And then somebody shouts out like, Mike, give us your shirt. And I'm like, no, it's an official Dorna shirt. Like, I can't. And then they're like, get Axel to sign it and like, just sell your shirt. And at this point, all my colleagues and my boss come out of the hospitality because they can hear what's going on.
Yeah.
And then anyway, needless to say, Axel Bassani signed my shirt, which we're not meant to give away. We sold that for 300 quid. So I'm now stood on the stage, literally shirtless. And I'm looking at Axel and I was like, why don't I sign your shirt and we'll sell that? And then Axel's just like, no, then someone throws a pen. So then there's a picture somewhere, me and Axel Bassani stood with our tops up, shivering to hell.
Great story.
We raised like 600-700, but I mean, that's how crazy it's got now in superbikes. That's I mean, we are there for the racing, and I know a lot of people say to me, like, you're more interested in the show. And I'm like, genuinely not. Like, I want to see proper close racing. Yeah. And, you know, I think the fact now, as you said, you know, with the rules in superbikes, MotoAmerica the same, we've got some really good racing in all the classes. But I think the beauty of Superbike, and it's always been like that, and certainly I think with MotoAmerica as well, is that we get to see the riders in Superbikes relaxing in a way that, you know, riders in MotoGP maybe can't because of the pressure. Same in Formula One, you know. I've done a couple of Formula One races now, and that's a whole nother level, you know. But again, I think the way that that's now being promoted with Drive to Survive, you know, you are starting to see, at the end of the day, we're all human. We're all human, right? We all have a personality. We're all quirky in our own way. And I think motorcycle racing, certainly in Superbike and in MotoAmerica, we're kind of really fortunate and blessed to be in a position where we can see that. And we have a good bunch of riders, both in the States and in Europe, where they're actually quite prepared to be open. And I don't know whether that's because they just feel comfortable that it's the same host. I know in the past, you'd go to a different country and you'd have a different person interviewing you. Yeah. And I know when I've spoken in the past to riders in Superbikes, they like the fact that it's consistent. So they know, you know, if they've had a bad day, they're still going to get questioned by Michael, but they know I'm not going to make them feel or look stupid, but equally, you know, I know all of them quite personally as well, you know, so you can kind of feed off, you know, someone doesn't like
trust you.
Yeah, they trust you. And I think that's a big part of it, you know. So I feel quite, like I said, I feel truly blessed. I mean, I was working in technical banking and selling software in banking, you know, in the city, and, you know, quit that to do this full time. And it was a big gamble, you know. It was a 1-year contract sort of 12, 13 years ago. And I remember telling my mom, because I did a bit of theater and stuff, and she's like, 1-year contracts, like, oh, why are you doing that? Why are you turning your back on this? And I'm like, I can't take this risk when I'm 60, you know, like I love racing, and, you know, people have said that I'm good commentator and you know, I'm personable. So why can't I just put some of that theater training into what I love? And if it doesn't work out in a year, I can go back to selling technical banking, you know. And, you know, for some strange reason, it seems like people around the world like this bald-headed guy who has false teeth just talking crap for 8 hours a day. But I'll take it. You know, I'm living my dream, honestly. It's the best job in the world. And I get to meet such amazing people. Probably 90% of my friends are in the paddock. You know, like I get quite sad and depressed at home. Like, again, a lot of people would probably think that that's just how I am naturally, that I'm constantly, you know, 100 miles an hour. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Like, I get home. And
this is the part where he tells us he's boring.
Oh, mate, I am so boring. Like, honest to God, I am so boring. Like, I've been single for 7 years. Even my girlfriend didn't want to stick around. So
oh my God.
You know what I mean? I'm literally sometimes at home just with my dressing gown on, you know, I'll have dinner at 5 p.m. and sometimes I'm in bed at 9. Like, you know, I'm just quite a simple, normal, average guy. But when it comes to being in the paddock, it's an environment that I feel comfortable in. I can be myself, you know, and it's like, I just love motorcycle racing and motorsport, you know, not just bikes. I love cars. Like I said, I'm doing a bit in F1 now as well. And it's, you know, I'm just truly blessed to do what I love, you know, and going back to what I said to my mom, I can't try that when I'm 60. You know, no one's going to give a 60-year-old a chance.
Yeah.
Right.
You know? So I've got to try it, you know, and like I said, I'm really blessed. And, you know, and then I get to meet people like you who get me to come on these shows. And I suddenly let my guard down and think, Jesus Christ, now. This is why I refuse to do podcasts, because you lull me in. You know, just put it out here, guys. These guys have been
dude, we're real fans of this shit.
I've got all the messages here. They've been all nice and nice.
Oh my God, here we go.
Lulled me into a false sense of security, and now
I think that's bullshit. I think first of all, you know these assholes, right?
That's why I agreed to do. That's why I agreed to do the show, because it's interesting, right? You know, I'm sure you guys as well, obviously with your role as well, Dustin, with stuff that you've done. You know, sometimes you do get asked by journalists and people, and I think everybody nowadays, because of social media, everyone talks about the riders and the riders having to be on their best behavior. It's the same for us as well, right? Same with you guys. You know, I'm always a little bit conscious if I post something. It's like, oh, does that sound right? You know, because the world now is so PC, and the last thing you want to do is upset somebody. So, you know, I think
fuck being PC, dude.
Well, I will say that by far, I thoroughly enjoy your commentary. I think you're really good at it. And I put you up there with, I'm a huge fan of Jamie Whittam and Jack Barnacle, because I did watch a lot of BSB back in like the early 2010s, especially like, you know, when Hopper was doing his thing against Tommy Hill. And I mean, that's probably top 3 of the races that I've ever watched is those last 3 laps at Brands Hatch, you know, with Catalunya and then obviously Imola in 2002. Yeah. But I love those 2 guys, and they are by far the best commentators I've heard, and they're the most entertaining. And Jamie Whittam's like going crazy during the whole thing. And
who was the guy? Who was the guy that used to like get all crazy during World Superbikes, and he'd be like,
Jonathan Green,
Stalker Walker,
like that. Jonathan Green,
Jonathan Green. He was doing MotoAmerica for a little bit. If I remember.
Yeah. When I first started as a journalist in World Superbike, Jonathan was there with Steve Martin, was his co-commentator, and I always remember getting quite a lot of pointers off Jonathan Green, and really good guy. I think he's actually living in the States now. I think he emigrated. He's living in the States now. I think he still does a lot of work or he did the last time I spoke to him. He was doing a lot of work in Asia with car racing, and I think he was certainly for a couple of Grand Prix, I think he was the circuit commentator at Austin. Not sure.
Yeah, because I think he lives in Houston, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he definitely moved. Yeah, he definitely moved.
I remember always loving that level of excitement that he brought to the broadcast. You know, when
he'd be like that even when they were on the grid, like the time would still be on the bikes, and he'd be like, it's like
he was like on the pin every time Chris Walker did something good. It was on, right?
Yeah. No, it was good. And James Whittam that you mentioned, that's really funny as well. Like going back to me being a kid, I've got a picture of me sat on one of James Whittam's bikes. And he was sponsored by Durex. So that was a great story as a 9 or 10-year-old going into school and then explaining to your teachers and stuff. Oh, what did you do at the weekend? Well, I went to Scarborough and I watched a race, and there was this motorbike, and it was sponsored by Durex. And this teacher was like, what? Like,
Durex condoms.
And I'm like, my mom told me that Durex are rubbers. But obviously, as a kid, I thought they were like, you call them erasers, right? Like to rub out pencils. So I'm like, how cool is this? Like this motorbike racer is sponsored by erasers. Because obviously my mum not wanting to have that conversation with me as a 10-year-old. And I'm sat in school, but and there was this motorbike, and they were sponsored by Durex. And my teacher's face, I would never, Miss Lamberti, she was called. I'll never forget that. That's funny.
Oh my God. That's like, you know, I had that conversation with Hawk Mazzotta when his first time running nationals. He was sponsored by Bravo condoms. Oh, and dude, some of the shit that you just said, Hawk said almost the exact same thing.
Really?
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's like Bravo, right? But
there used to be, we're again going completely off topic here, but there used to be back in the 250 Grand Prix days, wasn't there an Italian, was he Austrian? Maybe he was Austrian. He was an Austrian racer, and their sponsor was Dolly Buster. And it was basically, it was an Austrian, I don't know if it was a porn magazine or she was a porn star.
Oh, wow.
But she was basically the biggest porn star I don't know why do I know this, Mom? I don't know how I know this. Somebody told me, right?
She was a really big porn star.
Yeah, she was. Like
how much of her collection do you have on the shelf at the house?
Oh, it's all saved on my phone now, but we've moved on from those days.
I know you still have a DVD.
But yeah, she was this grid girl at the Salzburg ring. Google it if you don't know. There's going to be a million people now.
We're going to Google it.
250 Grand Prix. But she resembled Dolly Parton basically. That's
got it.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
That's funny.
So she was super classy.
I don't know why I just said that on the podcast. Like, why
awesome.
I have no idea.
So you don't just talk on the mic for a living. You also have a little other thing too, where you like represent dudes, like to help get them rides.
Kind of. So
how does that work?
I started. Who
does that?
So I have a media company, so Michael Hill Promotions, and I started that about 15 years ago. And the idea behind it was I was becoming a little bit disillusioned with how, certainly in the UK, there was no real representation or no real way of, I don't want to say teaching, that's probably the wrong word, but advising, mentoring young riders. And I would see so many riders, especially as I started getting into journalism and seeing how things would, and even back in the 90s in World Superbike, which is where I obviously sort of applied my trade and learned a lot. You could see then like how the riders and the teams were marketed very, very differently to what they were in the UK. And coming from a family where my dad raced and did sort of trials and motocross and stuff, and I did a little bit of racing myself, and obviously tried to market myself quite well. It was kind of, I don't know, I just kind of thought there's no opportunities here. Like all of the British kids that are fast are getting overlooked, and they don't have the money to go and live in Spain, and you can't just uproot your whole family. So maybe I can get into doing something by helping them with, I don't know, designing websites or putting together sponsorship brochures or just giving them some help. So that's kind of how it started. And then, I started to work with some really, really quite well-known names. So Alex Baldolini, who was a 250 Grand Prix podium man and, front runner in World Supersport with MV Agusta and Suzuki. He was actually teammates with Matthew Scholz when Matthew was doing World Supersport. So started working with him, and then a few years down the line, I was actually at Valencia for the Grand Prix, and Wayne Gardner stopped me randomly and was like, "You're Michael, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, well, Remy needs some work on his media. Do you want to do it?" Right. And, just because they'd heard of me, and I was like, Jesus Christ, that's Wayne Gardner. I was like, yeah, so obviously I still work with Remy now. So all of Remy's website and social media stuff is through my company.
Okay.
And then, I work with a couple of teams in America as well. So all the Titleist, BMW media releases are all through my company. So I work with Cam and with JD, and obviously last year with the guys that they had, Pure Attitude Racing. So I came on board as a bit of an advisor for them. So when they ran the 4-rider team a couple of years ago, I actually was personally managing Liam McDonald, who was racing in Asia. So we brought him across here, and obviously because I trusted Dean, that was a perfect fit.
Dean's a good dude.
Yeah, really nice. And funnily enough, I just look at your hat there, the Pops Garage. I was actually with them in Atlanta last week for the Pops Garage bike night, which was really cool. So I did that, and then so now obviously I have quite a few clients that we work with all around the world. Some are just with websites, some are with just wanting press releases, some are designing logos, things like that. So that's cool. And then I manage 2 or 3 riders. I was managing a few more, but it's very time consuming. And without sounding arrogant, I get asked a lot to manage riders because of the position that I have, and they think it's quite easy just to knock on a door and you can suddenly get them a ride.
Make a couple of phone calls for me, cool?
Yeah, it's probably harder. And I think the biggest thing for me again is that I think building someone a website or designing them a logo or writing a press release, people are like, "Oh, well, he's quite biased." I'm like, well, not really. I did the one last week for Titleist, and Cam crashed in the first race and then wins 2 races. JD obviously gets a P8, and Mesa's doing what he's doing. You can only really write about what's happened. It's not a story. You're not fabricating what happened, so you're only really telling the story. So it's a little bit different. And but for managing a rider, for me, it's not just they have to obviously. Without getting into it too much, I guess I don't manage riders like a conventional management company. There has to be, I don't have 25 riders on my books where they're just a number, There's a lot of work involved. And I think, the 2 or 3 riders that I work with, Luke Power being one of them.
I was just going to say that.
Who came across here, he obviously got a couple of podiums, and, he was leading the race in Assen now,
Yeah.
For me, using Luke as an example, or Liam previously as an example, they've got to have the right attitude, and there's got to be some commonality in terms of what are we trying to achieve here, and if you speak with Liam, it's quite strange for Liam as a rider. He's not got an aspiration to be a world champion, but he wants to get into test riding and being sort of endurance racing.
Okay.
So it's a completely different way that he wants to go. But it's about talking to them, understanding also from a family background. When I first started working with Luke, for example, he was 17. So from a legal point of view, I can have a contract, but it's not going to stand up in court if he doesn't pay me or if something goes wrong. So there was a lot of conversations in the background with Luke's parents to understand, this is what I can offer, and it's not a guarantee, and it has to be a two-way thing, and Luke has to be on board with this, and this is the way that I'm going to work. And if he's not going to respond to that, but that's not just with Luke, but with anybody,
right?
Because it is quite hard, and I think that's one of the reasons that I have said no. I mean, not mentioning names, but there's a couple of riders even in America where they've asked me, and their parents have asked me, we don't care what your fee is, manage him, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't, and it's not just because the kids are fast. They are fast, but they've got the wrong attitude, or they expect it all yesterday. And it's like, you've got to put the work in, like behind the scenes, the amount of conversations that even now I'm having with Liam, and Liam's not competing racing anymore. He's going in a different direction. I'm speaking to him maybe 2 or 3 times a month. And the calls are an hour, same with Luke,
what do you think?
I'm talking to Luke maybe 4 or 5 times a week.
What do you think is, you said the right attitude, like, what are you looking for with that? Like I'll be honest with you. There's a guy in the comments, John Ridey. He's working with a guy, for a long time. He's, what is he, 20 now? Brandon Kittleson.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Kittelson's pretty fast kid, right?
Yeah, nice kid.
He always shines at Laguna.
Yeah.
Last year he also he did like a sub ride on the wrench R7.
Yeah, that's right.
But this year, I guess they went back and got him a new Cowie 600 or whatever the thing is, 636. And, he's just going out and beating up dudes club racing. And,
the thing for me is I can't I've done a bit of riding in the past, and sure, I can do a track walk and I can show you the apexes, but I'm not a rider coach. So I'm not going to improve your lap time, What I'd like to think that I can do. And again, that's probably why I'm quite selective in who I manage, because I like to be able to have, I like them to be able to trust me, because it has to be a two-way thing. They have to be able to trust that if I'm going to go and speak to a team, or obviously there's a lot of conversations go behind the scenes, but if I'm going to go into a meeting and talk to a sponsor, or we're talking to a team or whatever, you have to know that the decision I make is the right decision, and you have to trust that. But it has to work both ways as well. I have to understand the rider, that to say, social media is probably the biggest thing. So with any rider that I'm going to work with, even if it's just about building them a website, I'm looking at their social media, and the amount of riders that will say, oh, but I've got great social media. And then you look at the social media and they're flipping the bird to a copper, and then they're complaining that they lost a sponsor. And I'm like, in Europe, that just doesn't work. And I don't know. And I don't think it's just an American thing, because I think it's the same in Australia. It's the same in the UK. Yeah. And I think the perception, especially with young kids, is that they don't see the bigger picture. And why would you at 17, right? We've all been 17. I've done stuff when I was 17 as a stupid kid going, damn.
So you advise the riders not to do the middle finger Monday shot?
Or go to Razzles in Daytona.
I don't know what Razzles is, but it sounds like fun. So.
ask Danny S. like it's Scott Russell about Razzles.
I don't need to. If you've mentioned those two, I know exactly what we're talking about. But I think it's a combination of things, right? I think it's a combination of understanding where the rider wants to go, and B, also for me to be honest and say, can I help on this journey, right? Because for some of the riders, I would hope that I'd be able to work with them for a long time. Like I've worked with Remy now for the best part of 10 years. Okay, not as his manager, but in terms of media management, advice, all that kind of stuff. But I think when you get into full rider management, it's completely different, because you have to understand also what their goals are. And also for me, maybe I'm quite fortunate with the job that I do. The same, if you watch Mike on the mic, I'll get kind of the same kind of reaction that I want, but my interview style with Loris Baz, for example, is going to be completely different to my interview style with Cam Beaubier. One, their personalities are too different, you know, and you need to talk to them in a completely different way to get out of them what you want. And you probably saw that when you were over in Portimao. I'll talk to Jonathan Ray completely differently to the way that I will speak to Scott Redding, for example, because their personalities are chalk and cheese. And it doesn't mean
everybody's different, right? Like, I don't know, like I'm kind of learning this just by talking to people on this stupid podcast thing, right? And you're right. Like, there's some people that are, I mean, there's some people it's like drawing, I don't know, like it took a lot to get to draw from them what you're looking for, you know?
Right.
And so like you've kind of gotten to know them, and you probably talked to Gagne maybe a little different than you would talk to Campi.
Right. For sure. Exactly. And I think it's kind of, so for me, it's trying to understand what kind of personality they've got, and also to understand what kind of relationship you've got. I get asked this a lot, and, again, not mentioning names, there are, I don't know how many riders, what is it, 26 on the grid in World Superbike, and there has been over the years. Right. And there's only one, and I won't mention the name because I think it's the wrong thing to do, but there's only one that I disliked. Venomously disliked, just could not stand them at all. I just thought they were horrible. Just thought they were an awful human being. I just thought they were rude. They were entitled. I just didn't like them, right?
Yeah.
But on the stage, and it's funny because I asked my mum this, because my mum was like, there must be somebody that you just don't like. And I'm like, no, they're all pretty good, apart from one. And my mum picked a rider, and it wasn't the one. And I was like, no, not at all. Not at all. And she was like, well, then because my job is to be professional,
Right.
I'm not paid to like the riders. I'm not paid to be their friends.
Right.
My job is to promote them and to promote the series that I'm working in.
Right.
So I think, like I said, it's different. If you're just building someone a website, it's whatever you're going to charge me. You're building them a website. It's more of a transaction. But I think if you're going to start managing somebody, and I can't speak for other managers, I can only speak for myself, they become an offset or an offshoot of me, right? Okay. So that my brand or me as a person is now associated with them.
Yeah.
Wow. So if they're on social media flipping off a cop, then is that the kind of person that Michael Hill is? And if it is that going to cost me? Is that going to cost me a job in the future because they think I'm hanging around with people like that? So there's an element of that, but there also has to be an understanding from them as well, because as much as I'm not paid to be anybody's friend, they're not paid to be my friends either.
Right.
So they have to understand that, if we're going to work together, we're going to be having a lot of conversations. And there's going to be times as your manager where I'm going to say, you know what you did when you did X, Y, and Z in qualifying? That was a douche thing to do. And your team is absolutely right to say that. So give your head a wobble, go to bed, come out tomorrow and race your bloody bike. And that's hard.
Dude.
But that's hard if you've gone from it being friends, where if somebody's not prepared for you to have that conversation with them, they can take that in a really negative way. I did quite a bit of work and courses and stuff on psychology. So I try to work with riders that I'm not saying that I only work with riders that need mental health. Help. That's not what I'm saying.
Well, I mean,
but that would respond in a positive way, make them a better rider on and off the track. So I think it's a combination of things, and they have to have a goal where they think that I can help. If I can't help them to get there, then there's no point me dedicating, because I'm kind of like, I'm either all in or I'm not doing it. The same with, like you're saying,
all or nothing.
Yeah, you'll know that, Dustin, in the work that you do in your capacity, right? You can't be in it 50% or 90%. No. You're either all in and you're giving it your all. And if it works and you win and one of the riders I work with becomes a world champion, then we did a great job. But if not, I want to be able to go to my, without being morbid, I want to be able to go to my grave knowing that, we did everything that we possibly could, just wasn't meant to be. But we didn't leave any stone unturned. We explored every opportunity, every manufacturer, every sponsor, every promotional opportunity. You give it 100%, I give it 100%. You know what? You were only good enough to finish third. Or you know what? You're only good enough to finish 10th. And that's fine. But at least we give it 100%. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I think going back to your earlier point about riders' attitudes, I think a lot of riders, a lot of young riders, it's just my personal opinion, certainly in the UK, and I think certainly in the US, a lot of the riders think that it should be a given that they're on the grid, that it's a God-given right. I'm fast, so I should get sponsors. I'm fast, so I should be on this team. And I'm like, I could never work with those kind of people, because the amount of effort that it would take to get them to see things through everybody else's eyes, it's just not worth it, because you're never going to change their perception, And it's a shame. It's a shame because, like I said, there's some talented riders in the UK that I look and I'm like, that's the reason you've never left BSB. You're a great rider, but every time you open your mouth or every time you post something on social media, you just look like a dick. And that's why nobody's interested in you. It's hard to say it, but it's true.
Wow. Like, I mean, what you're saying also goes into the, like, you could be the nicest guy ever, but if you're not out there, trying to, I guess, shake the tree a bit,
Right.
If you're not willing to shake the tree, then how do you expect somebody like you to shake the tree for them?
Yeah. And I think for me as well, it's about also, I don't want to turn people into a robot. You know, it's very easy to turn around, and I've had people say, oh, but you work with Dorna, you know what they do. Yeah, sure. I know how Dorna work with the Asia Talent Cup and the British Talent Cup and the European Talent Cup, but they're not turning these riders into robots, right? They're giving them the tools and educating them about how they can use their own personality to better themselves.
Right.
But only that rider can take that advice and those tools to make it work, right? You can't actually put the words in their mouth for them. So, and not everybody's capable of doing that. Coming back to the point that I said with riders that you interview, some riders that you'll get, it's difficult to interview them. It doesn't mean that they're boring. I remember articles years ago when people were talking about certain riders, oh, he's boring. No, he's not. That's just his personality. If you actually listen to the answers that he gives in the interviews, or how he is when he's on stage, he's actually really intellectual. But as you said, he is just so focused. He's here for one job. He wants to be a world champion, and he didn't like the move that somebody just stuffed him, and he's going to say that. That just shows that he's got heart and he's in it for the right reasons, Right. But, maybe the guy that's singing and dancing and doing handstands and playing the ukulele that just crashed in the last 5 races, maybe he needs to stop doing that.
Well, and like leading into like this past weekend, there's a huge shakeup in the rider market now that Aleix Espargaro is retiring. He finally.
Yeah, what do you guys think about that?
He's had his time. He's had his time, but obviously he showed that at least at that track he's pretty freaking dangerous,
pretty solid. But for him, I've noticed he's been in the paddock a long, 2008 or 9 he came around.
Yeah.
Because I remember seeing, was it Faster or Fastest? He was riding some like old Ducati.
Yeah, right.
It was one of the Pramac bikes. So, he's been around for a long time. And he's just kind of this unassuming guy. And then he puts the Ford Racing Yamaha on the box. Right. And he's always just been that kind of solid journeyman racer. Just, he's always there, but he's just not great.
Am I crazy to think that Amazon series helped make guys like him and Jorge Martin shine a bit? Because dude, that guy in that Amazon series, Espargaro was like the angry, emotional Spaniard that was like "Puta madre."
Yeah.
But you know what? With someone like Aleix, right? And again, I've been fortunate to meet him a couple of times, and you're right. He's the most unassuming, humble guy, big family guy, with his family and his kids and all that kind of stuff. But to win to win any championship, right, you need so many pieces of the jigsaw to fall into place, right? From a technical point of view, from a mindset, from a talent, from so many different factors. And, if you look at Aleix, look at the career, like some of the highlights that you just mentioned, look at the career that he's had. And then look at the success now that Aprilia are having.
Huge.
Right? Huge. He's been a huge part of that,
Absolutely.
And look at the successes he's had with other manufacturers when he was with Suzuki, and okay, he didn't win the championship, Joan Mir did, but you could argue that there's a lot of that influence from him,
Right.
And what a career that he's had. And one of the things I always like about Aleix, he's never shy on saying how he feels,
Oh yeah.
He's fully aware that people are watching, and he knows some of the comments that he'll make will get an attention, but he has a belief and he sticks to it. And okay, maybe sometimes it would have been a little bit better. Just slow it down a little bit. Like don't go balls to the wall.
That's why we love him. That's why we love him, because we know we're going to.
Some people don't. Some people aren't into it. I like it. I like that in your face.
Yeah, you ask him a question, and I guess if you're one of his rivals, right, and you ask him a question, or there's a bonehead move that's being pulled, and you didn't like it, he's just going to say, "Oh well, tough," and walk off, And okay, some people like that, some people don't, but I think he's had a great career, and I think for me that opens up a big question, as you said, in terms of in the MotoGP market. There's already a big question mark about who's going to go on the second factory Ducati, and I think from the 3 riders that are sort of earmarked, whether it's Marquez, and whether Bastianini stays or whether Jorge Martin gets the ride. I think there's many different aspects to that prior to the Aprilia deal, right? Because I don't know how much Pecco Bagnaia is getting paid, but I would imagine that the purse strings at Ducati are not bottomless, right?
Right.
So in that situation, you could argue, well, Marc Marquez doesn't necessarily need he deserves a big salary before I get annihilated on social media by anybody that watches this that says we shouldn't get paid. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the purse strings are only going to go so far, right? Because there's not just the factory team. They have all these other satellite teams. You've got Bulega and Bautista. in World Superbike, you know, is Bula, all that money is still coming out of one pot. It doesn't matter which way you dissect it, right? The same as
money and there's money coming to Warhorse HSBK.
You know, so there's money that needs to be divvied up. So I think, you know, would Marquez potentially want more money than the other riders, or would he command more money? You would argue probably yes, just given by the status of who Marc Marquez is.
Right. But he already gave up the money to go to Gresini just to get out of Honda, so he's already willing to give it up.
So exactly, he's already proven that he will be willing to give it up. Somebody like Jorge Martin and Ea Bastianini, who are what, 7, 8, 10 years younger than Marquez?
Yeah,
I mean, they're a lot younger, right? So
less damaged.
Exactly. So for them, is the law of going to an Aprilia, where, no disrespect to Maverick Vinales, but he's also not a spring chicken, right? He's not in his 20s anymore. He's also getting towards the end of his career. So it would make sense for Aprilia, maybe. I mean, I'm just saying how I see it. Keep Maverick, and then all of a sudden there's a little bit more money in Aprilia. Right. So for someone like Jorge Martin, who wants to be on a factory bike, okay, then go to Aprilia and take X.
It is just as good of a bike. I think it's just as good of a
bike. It's crazy right now.
They're pretty
tight. European bikes are all pretty tight in GP, right?
All really tight.
Aprilia's on any given day, the KTM.
Yeah.
Pedro has shown that the KTM is
maybe
there.
Jeebus, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, how amazing has Pedro Acosta been, though?
Dude.
I mean, you know, he's won a championship for every year that he's been in the series, right? He was Moto3 world champion, then he was Rookie of the Year in Moto2, then he was Moto2 world champion. And then you look at him now and it's like, it's only a matter of time before this guy wins a race this year. I mean,
he's just figuring it out.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he's you could see him learning. It's like watching him learn. Like, oh, that didn't work, you know?
Yep. Yeah. And he ran the soft tire, which I thought was an interesting move because him and Mark ran the soft tire, and Mark obviously had tire left to pass Aleix and you know, be right there with Jorge. And it's like, okay, where did the soft tire come from? I thought it was going to die off, but the track was greasy enough. It wasn't eating up the grip. So
you mentioned obviously those manufacturers, obviously 2 manufacturers in GPs that we haven't mentioned, Honda and Yamaha.
Yes.
I mean, it's gone wrong for
what
Honda.
The fuck happened?
Oh, you know? It's so bad.
But and maybe I'm the only one that says this because I say it on the stage in World Superbike a lot. It is only a matter of time before that turns around. It is
100%.
Things go in full circle, right?
It's cyclical as fuck, right? Like, I mean, you know, you see what's happening even in MotoAmerica, right? Like, there's like a strong push from the BMW guys and the Ducati guys. Like, those bikes are fast as shit, and our bikes still.
Yeah. Look at World Super. You mentioned BMW, right? I mean, look at Toprak. I'm not knocking I'm not saying anybody that's ever raced a BMW before is terrible. Not at all. Like, it certainly would go way quicker than I ever would.
Right.
But for some reason,
he's an extreme talent.
Toprak's got on the bike and suddenly gone, why don't we do this with it? And it works. Right. And it's like, oh, we never thought of that. So sometimes you just need a fresh set of eyes, right? So look at Alex Rins, for example, and Quartararo. Now, Rins seems to be able to get the best out of the bike in qualifying and then can't make it work in the race. Quartararo is the opposite way. But it was only 2 or 3 years ago that Yamaha were world champions.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
That's what makes me wonder about that series. You know, like we talked about the guy I referred to as trash last week. You know, Captain Qualifier himself. You know, but it's just, you know, I was kind of making note before this show. I was like watching, and you could see there's dudes in the series in GP right now that could easily be replaced. Period.
But do you think? I mean, again, just to be controversial, do you think it's fair though? Do you think it's fair that a rider comes in after 1 year? I'll use Remy Gardner as an example, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing great now. He was fastest in the last test. He's finding his feet in World Superbike, which I'm super happy for him from a biased point of view because I do his website, but also just because he's a nice kid. But do you think that was fair? He wins a Moto2 World Championship, gets 6 or 7 races into his MotoGP career, and gets told you're not good enough.
Yeah.
And then gets booted out. So then he has to reinvent himself and find his feet again. And it's like, you know.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
No, I'm talking about dudes that have been consistently, you know, 9th, 10th, and
he's saying Morbidelli.
Morbidelli's one of them. That dude's trash. I'm sorry. Sorry. That dude's trash.
No. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, no. Sorry. We're going to fall out, Dustin. Oh, dude. No way.
He's got to cause
like Morbidelli. It's just like, I don't know. I mean,
he peaked early.
Yeah.
On the
good job. I'll let you have your say.
It's like Vinales too. Vinales too, man. Like that guy. Like until this year, obviously he shined a couple of races this year, but he's Barcelona, he went right back to captain qualifier mode, right? So,
but do you not think? I mean, the Vinales thing. Okay, he's been around a long time. He's been okay, maybe but then you could argue the same with Oliveira. You could argue the same with Jack Miller. There's a whole list of riders that you could mention to say whatever.
Yeah,
but I do take umbrage with Frankie Morbidelli. I mean, he finished second in the World Championship, got injured, has just fought his way back, and he's outperforming a number of riders.
There's a number of riders, right? Like. It's too bad for them because it seems like there's a lot of riders coming that are hungry.
Yeah,
and that's the
thing.
Those guys are going to get replaced, but that's just the evil nature of the sport anyway, right?
You're getting measured.
Do you not think that it's just become so brutal now? Like they've just signed Fermin Aldeguer, right? So Fermin Aldeguer, he's managed by Hector Faubel, who himself is a former racer. The kid's clearly got talent. I mean, at 16 he was stock champion, and he was Moto2. So the kid can clearly ride.
Yeah,
but they've signed him. Yeah. And now the wheels have fell off in Moto2. Like he can't stay on the bike. I mean, I'll be the first one to say, and I think I said it in a podcast before. When Yamaha announced Fabio Quartararo going to Yamaha, I was like, what the hell is Yamaha doing? Like he's had one podium. Like what the hell are they doing? Like,
at Barcelona.
And then you fast forward a year and a half, and he's world champion.
Right.
But unfortunately, I think because you said, as you said, you've got a whole field now that's covered by 0.9 of a second, maybe with a couple of Hondas at the back because nobody seems to get the Honda to work. But the reality is you've got pretty much 99% of the grid covered by less than a second.
Yes.
I mean, that's less than the width of my little pinky. I mean, this 100%. Is what we're talking about. So
yeah, they have a bad day and they're like...
they have a bad day and they're on the scrap heap. But the problem that you've got now is that there's nowhere else for them to go. So they're either going to have to go back to Moto2. Well, those seats are getting filled because you've got young 16, 17-year-olds coming up from Moto3. And they can't go sideways now to World Superbike because
they're full.
That's completely full. And even there, you've got 1.5 seconds now pretty much covering the whole grid.
Yes.
You've got the likes of Scott Redding, who is a runner-up in the World Championship. Yeah. Who on some weekends is struggling to be in the top 12. You're telling me he forgot how to ride a bike? He didn't. It's just the fact that the level is so high. So where do these guys go? Look at Loris Baz. I mean, I'm glad that Loris Baz is in MotoAmerica. That guy should still have a seat in World Superbikes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. I get what you're saying.
But there's no left for them
as
to
a
go.
fan, you're watching like this. I'm a fan and I'm watching this dude repeatedly finish way back, and I'm just like, why is he still there? That class, it's like elite stuff. It's like, come on.
The measuring stick is because he's on a Ducati. So you have to measure him against all the other Ducatis, and they're all up at the front.
Okay, but I would argue in the last 2 races, he's outperformed Alex Marquez on both occasions.
Yeah, that's another one. That's another one that's like...
Dustin's on one today, isn't he? It's just he's on one.
He's stirring it up. He's stirring it up. I can see that point, but you're right. The margin starts to go like this at the top.
Right.
And you've got a real big chunk of riders that are all pretty much along the same skill level. And then you've got the top of the pyramid.
Then you got the aliens, right?
Yeah, then you got the aliens. And then, that block is so big now that it's like everybody's...
There's a lot of aliens.
Musical chairs.
Like aliens, like Quartararo is an alien, I think, and he's finishing way back.
On a bike and...
Yeah.
Where do you think Quartararo would finish if he was on a Ducati or an Aprilia then? You think he'd win?
I mean, you see what's happened with Marquez.
I could see him on the Aprilia,
top 3.
but not the Ducati.
I think he'd be top 3 right now,
Yeah, on the Aprilia, I think he would be best bashed to the Aprilia. It's a silky smooth bike, and he rides silky smooth. So
it's weird. The Ducati hasn't worked out for everybody, though.
No, it's not.
It doesn't work out for everybody. I mean, look at Bastianini. That dude, he was a front runner, and then he went to factory team and went backwards. But he did kind of get hurt and whatever, and he's not the same dude, I don't think. But
I just think that there's so much pressure.
Where's he going to go? Like if people are saying that he's already done, like his name's out of the, like the MotoGP guys were like, oh yeah, it's down to it's a 2-rider fight for that last seat, right? Where's he going to go?
Well, who's taking the Yamaha?
He's still technically he's in the top 4 in the championship, right? So it's like, surely he deserves a ride,
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I'm just looking in the comments because I've never used this platform before. And I've now realized that you've got comments coming in, which is actually really cool. So this is good.
I've been ignoring them because I wanted to listen to everything that you had to say, bro.
Yeah,
I'm talking crap, but I'm like, I want to watch this. Michael, how is that DG Racing hat?
Daniel Goodnight from
Daniel Goodnight. Yes, Daniel. That hat is amazing. You know, I was actually doing an N2 race at Atlanta last week. They asked me to come out again, and there was no mic on the mic, but it didn't seem to matter because I just kept giving stuff. Like my suitcase is packed to drive up to Elkhart Lake tomorrow. And I had to go and buy another backpack to put hats and T-shirts in, so it's good.
Oh, you poor bastard!
I know my luggage bill. It's all right. I'll just invoice MotoAmerica, so we're all good.
Yeah.
And then someone's put here, John, is it Righty?
Righty.
Yeah.
Righty.
Is it too early to talk about the TT? I got to say, no, it's not too early to talk about the TT because the last 2 days, I've literally been like a hermit crab in my hotel room. I went down for breakfast, came back upstairs, and I was watching it on my mobile phone because there's an app where you can. It's a bit like Live Plus for MotoAmerica, and you can watch everything. And I was watching it. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever been to the TT. I've been to the TT. I was conceived there, as we talked about earlier. Right. I tell you what, I mean, I love racing, but bugger me, these guys are crazy.
Hickey, right? Hickey's murdering, right? Isn't he murdering?
The last time I went there was like 2016, 17 with my ex-girlfriend, and she'd never been. And I was like, come on, we're going to go to the TT. And after a whole load of art, we're going to go to the TT. Anyway, we go to the TT, and I'm quite good friends with Peter Hickman. And I said, where should we watch from? So he's like, go to Sulby Straight, which is one of the fastest parts of the track. He says, and you'll find a house, and on the side of this house, there's a speed trap. He said, which is where the police normally catch you if you're going more than 30 miles an hour. He says, walk about 20 feet before that. He says, and there's a hedge. He says, and there's a great big hole in the hedge where people have been sitting for the last years. He goes, get yourself there early, climb into the hedge.
Oh, wow.
And watch from there. And do you know what I might do? I might actually post this video because I've still got it on my phone. And anyway, we're sat in this hedge. And as you can, I'm getting earache because my ex-girlfriend is not into bike. Why the hell have you brought me here? I mean, don't worry.
Just wait.
Practice will be finished in 4 hours. Don't worry about it. She's like, what am I going to do if I need the toilet? I'm like, well, just cross your legs or something. Just wait. The bike's
you're in the bush.
You're literally inside this freaking bush, right? And honest to God, I just start recording, and you can hear the bikes from miles away. And everybody listens like on these little radios or on the apps and stuff now. So the bikes have set off. They're coming through the 10th milestone or whatever it is. And you can hear, I'm like, God, this is crazy. And it seemed like forever. And I've got this video where it's 30 seconds and you can hear the noise from the engine, 30 seconds. And then it's literally like that straight past. And we looked across 197, it said on this bloody screen. And it's I'll post the video on my Instagram later on. And I was just like, there's no way he's making the next corner. And if he gets it wrong, he's straight into a pub.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, this is the craziest. I got back to the pits. We saw him the next day and I said, mate, you are crazy. He's like, oh, that was just an outlap. I was like, what? That was just an outlap. I was like, Christ on a bike. I'm like, that's insane, mate. And like, we literally sat there and I just couldn't believe. And even the sidecars, don't even get me started on the sidecars. Like, that's another level. 146 mile an hour on a sidecar with no suspension.
Nope.
Nah,
I'm not doing that.
I'll just stick to me 30 mile an hour in my little Corsa, like on the slow. But I mean, what an incredible race it is. I mean, I know it's dangerous and people will always be against it, but I mean, hats off to anybody, whether you're first or last at the TT, just to even take part and set off in that race. Is,
how about
Jeremy Toy, right? Jeremy Toy, who's SDK's crew chief guy. That guy went over to TT and he kicked ass, dude. He was like over 100 miles an hour, like the first time there. Like,
Mark Miller, I think. Mark Miller. About Glenn Irwin, coming over as a BSB ride and never been there before. Fastest rookie. I mean, it's
29.
Yeah, and I think they're doing about just under 130. They cancelled it today because of the weather. But I mean, the first day of practice, I think they had a sort of a 1 hour practice session. They could change bikes, and then they did like 2 laps. Average speed from a standing start, 130 mile an hour, just under 130 mile an hour. It's like, that's an average speed. Like, that's crazy.
That's a long time like that in 6th gear, dude. Like,
could you imagine back in the day when they used to have the old 125s? I remember going with my dad, and they used to. I remember talking to Joey Dunlop with my dad and stuff, and they were talking about how you used to have the different jets and how you'd have to gear them up and all that kind of stuff. And they would run them so rich just so that when they were going through the trees and that it didn't seize up. And could you imagine one of those things locking up on you? Jesus.
Well, didn't was Robert, right? His brother. Yeah, when
in the
this
Northwest,
bike locked up when he died up in
yeah. I mean, it is scary, but yeah. Anyway, talking about MotoAmerica, who's going to win the title then? Is this where Justin's going to go into his attack performance bias, or is this? I see. I've watched how your shows go now.
Yeah,
so
dude, I'm biased as fuck. Everybody knows I'm an attack guy. Like whatever. The one thing I see is
Richard's buddy.
I see my friend working his ass off on those fucking motorcycles. That's what I see. And,
do you not? I mean, you can't take anything away from what Jake's achieved, and previously, obviously, with Cam and stuff. And for sure, they're one of the best teams. I don't think they're just one of the best teams here. I think they're one of the best teams in Superbike, even if you look at all domestic championships. And I genuinely believe that. But I think this year, the level in MotoAmerica, you can see just from the races that we've had. Yes. You know, in Atlanta, also in Barber as well. You know, I think you've got different manufacturers, different teams. You've certainly got with Yamaha, with BMW, and with Ducati.
Are you going to use our word?
What?
Stackter?
Oh yeah, Ben Smith's word, stackter.
Is that when it crashed?
It's stackter than it's been before. Like the level.
Oh, it's meaning it's full. Okay. Yeah. You gotta love Ben, haven't you? You know what I mean? You gotta love Ben. God bless him.
Yeah.
Actually, he's quite well as well, obviously. But no, I mean, you got. You got.
Dude, it's hard to win. I mean, it's not easy. It's exactly what Richard's been wanting. You know, it's like, dude, careful what you wish for. But yeah, I mean, you know, running around and winning a race by 10 seconds doesn't look too fun for the fan. You know?
Yeah, and I've spoken to Jake, as I'm sure you have. I spoke with Jonathan Ray with Alvaro and World Superbikes. Right. They want to race. They want to be banging bars. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. They'll take the paycheck and the points any which way they come, right? But there's nothing more that these riders like. Look at some of the interviews you see after the races where they've literally gone head to head. Yes. You know, it's insane, you know? And just to Daniel's point as well, I don't know if you were here at the beginning of the show, but no, the mic on the mic segments, they're free. I'm free to do whatever I want. So nothing is scripted. It's all.
He wants you to go talk to our buddy Will Posse at. He'll be at Road America this weekend.
I will do that. I did actually speak to Will last week. He was at the endurance race, but I will.
Yeah, he
was on the podium in the endurance race actually.
Yeah, goober.
So
him and I raced club racing back in the day.
You asked me who I'm rooting for or whatever. Obviously, the team that I'm on, like of course. Right.
Yeah. Okay, so let's put it in a different way. Where do you think your biggest threat's coming from then?
It's obviously Beaubier. Period.
Dot.
You know, the other guys are like, SDK's coming. You know,
he's
the other guys.
SDK has been really impressive.
Murderer, dude. Yeah. Like it's awesome. You know, it's great seeing. Yeah.
Boobier.
Boobier. Yeah. Okay.
Brian Van is. He called him Boobier. So
So Cameron, Cam Beaubier is I mean, the dude's a murderer, right? Like, of course, he's going to be the threat every weekend. You know, occasionally you'll get a threat from number 2. I don't think he's like a serious title contender. I just don't see that. SDK is probably more of a threat, I think, because he's hungry and he's coming,
Yeah. He's got a good team, and that bike is dialed for them, and they got, Jeremy Toy.
I'm glad I agree with you. I think on paper, the two, no disrespect to the other riders, but if you had to pick at the start of the season, it's going to be a Gagne versus Beaubier fight for sure. 100%. I would have said that that battle for third place, being honest, and I know SDK very well, but I wouldn't have necessarily put him in that fight so early in the season.
I wouldn't have either.
Coming from where he's come from, and not just the injury, but the mental shit that he had to go through, But he's, like you said, he's come back and he's hungry. And I mean, some of the moves, you would think he's been riding superbikes for years.
Yeah.
But I think I just hope that Loris Baz gets a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I do too.
He's kind of one of these guys that's just kind of gone under the radar. But do you know what?
I think Baz is this weekend's going to be Baz's weekend.
Yeah, because that Ducati.
I will never forget this, dude. When we were in Portugal, I was just walking the paddock with Jake, because I had to drag him around. Like Yamaha was like, make sure Jake gets here by this time or whatever. So we ended up talking to Baz, and Baz was like, dude, did you hear the repaving Road America? And I'm like,
yeah, he loves the place, doesn't he?
Oh my God, dude. The way his eyes lit up when he was talking about Road America, dude, that guy's going to be fast this weekend.
Do you know who else I think is going to get on the podium before halfway through the season?
Who?
Xavi Forés.
Dude,
I think he's one of the most. Awesome. I think he's one of the most. And I said this. I first did an interview with him when I was 18, I think 17, 18.
Yeah.
And he was riding for Corona Suzuki back in the stock 1000s, and he is the most underestimated guy by a long shot. I mean, he should still be in World Superbike. And how? I mean, again, I don't know whether it was to do with he asked too much money, or I don't know what the situation was, but how that guy does not have a ride. Yeah. Even in super sport to defend it is beyond me. I can't understand that at all. I mean, I just don't get it. If the guy was a bit of a dickhead and he was posting stuff all over social and you think he's hard to work with, I'd be kind of like, no, okay, I kind of get it. But he's not. Again, if you actually speak to the guy, he's the most down-to-earth, placid guy.
He is. I was texting him a couple of days ago. Like, the dude is just rock solid, Xavi is. And like, kind of bummed that he's like not on the Yamaha reserve list. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you saw what he did, right? He beat his teammate, you know.
Yeah, and his pace. I mean, okay, he had a problem in the second race, but if you look at the pace from where he was, and obviously he's only going to get faster the more he gets used to the bike, you know. Yep. But a lot of people forget, and I said this on the show, on the MotoAmerica show. People forget that he's a 5 or 6 time podium finisher in World Superbike. Like, the guy can ride, you know? It's going to take him a bit of time to readjust to Superbike. He's never ridden a Suzuki in that spec before.
Right.
He's going to get used to the tires on a Superbike, but he knows the tracks. I mean, I genuinely think that if it comes down to a fight, I think he can be on the podium. Yeah. And then it's going to be a big problem for Chris Ulrich, right? Because can he put technically he could put 3 bikes out there, couldn't he?
Yeah.
He could, technically.
Yeah. But on the other end of that, like, if he does well on the Suzuki, do you think that'll open a couple of doors for him for a future ride?
You'd like to hope so, wouldn't you?
I mean, man, like,
whether it's staying with Suzuki, or whether these other teams look and go, hey, actually, let's put a second BMW out alongside SDK. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
I mean, I was talking to Troy Herfoss at Road Atlanta, and dude, he was telling me he wants a superbike ride.
And I tell you what, if you put Herfoss on the superbike, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you followed him. Yeah. I've met him a few times in Australia when I've been there for World Superbikes. The guy's a real deal too, eh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's real deal. He picked up that bagger super quick.
Yeah,
he went fast on the bagger super quick. I was blown away. I thought it was going to take him a little bit to kind of get dialed in, because all those other guys, all the front runners, are really dialed on their bikes. Man, he picked it up super quick. Yeah, now he's winning races, and now he's looking good for the championship.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I think we've got so many good stories in a lot of our championships now. Certainly in the States with MotoAmerica, World Superbikes is in a strong place. Whether you're a fan of GP and the rules, I don't even want to go into that. That's a whole nother podcast. I think, but the good thing for me with the rules, just very quickly on that, because I know I get asked this a lot, and I can't really talk about it in the Superbike paddocks. But for me, I think it's a good thing that they're banning these traction control things, these really launch things, the start devices.
Oh, the transformer shit?
Yeah, I think it's good that they're going away from that. I think it's good that they're banning some of these aero devices, because
and they're shrinking the aero down.
Yeah, like you look at superbikes, you've still got a couple of little winglets on some of the bikes, but you've got bikes that can still draft each other and they can pass. The problem that you've got with a lot of the circuits that we go to now is that because of the aero, the bikes, they just follow each other. And because, as you said, the times are so close, when you're only gaining 1/10, you've got to send it. And if you get that wrong, you're in the gravel, and no one's prepared to risk it to fall. So it's that's when it just becomes a bit processional.
I wouldn't say no one. Number 93 seems to have no problem.
Apart from Marquez, it just seems to be, apart from when he comes from the back of the grid. I mean,
Well, they're having problems like Formula One with the dirty air. But it's a different outcome because their tires are getting so hot, and they're having to cool their tires, so they got to back off each other for a little bit, and then time it right. So they got I got 4 laps before this sucker starts to heat up again, and I got to get this sucker done. And I think getting away from that dirty air and just cleaning up the aero to go back to the old days, I think that would make for really good racing, and it goes back to the right hand.
You know what I mean? I like what Ben Spies said, right? Like, he wants them just to be motorbikes. That's why World Superbike's so good. Yeah. Because they're motorbikes going at it. Like, they're not spaceships.
Yeah.
They're not Transformer spaceships.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's one of those things that I can see in the comments, people talking about, Pedro Acosta. Yeah, for sure. But he's a rookie. He doesn't know any different. You know what I mean? And that's not, doing what he's doing now. He's not going to win him a championship if the rules stayed the same, because he'd be on the floor too much.
Right.
You'd win some races, but you got to finish and get points. I always remember talking about the 2019 World Superbike battle, and again, I got slated because I was like, sometimes the fastest rider doesn't always win the championship. The championship is the guy that's the most consistently fast. And there's a massive difference. And I talk about this a lot with the riders that I manage.
The fastest rider that year was Bautista, but
Jonathan won.
Yeah. Johnny started doing better after they fucked with the Ducati mid-season, right?
Yeah, and then Alvaro crashed in Donington, then he went to Laguna, crashed in those three, and it's like, then the momentum suddenly swings, and then in your head, so you ride tense because you don't want to crash, and then what happens? You make another mistake and you crash again, and then all of a sudden Jonathan's on cloud nine. And Jonathan was smart in a lot of his interviews when he was saying that, I knew I wasn't going to beat Alvaro, so let's just beat everybody else. The season is long. There's more than 500 and something points, 590 points in a year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right. You aren't going to win the championship in the first three rounds.
No, it was Jerez. Jerez was the start of the downfall for Alvaro.
Exactly. So it's kind of the same. And it's like, you look at MotoGP now, and it's like Pecco, we know, has won titles for the last couple of years. Can he win 3? I don't know. Not if he keeps doing what he's doing, because he's giving away too many points on a sprint race. The king of the sprints has been Martin since day one. And as long as Martin keeps picking up the sprint win and finishing second the following day, there's not enough races left. If they did that all season, Martin would still be the champion. So, Bagnaia is making mistakes, but he's probably making mistakes for reasons like what you've said. It's so close. All of a sudden, he's not P2 in the sprint race, he's P4. So he's having to push harder, gets to the front.
Right.
Last lap, and he's like, I've only got a second, but that difference of 3 points makes a big difference. And then you make a mistake and you go down. Luckily and thankfully, he hasn't got injured. But how many times have we seen riders go down? And the races are so close together now. Yeah. You only have to, God forbid, I hope I'm not calling the devil, but you break a race, you break a collarbone, and you're racing in 5 days.
Yeah,
right.
It's over.
This kind of goes back into what you were saying about Bagnaia. He's a couple times in a row, right? I rate Barry, Moto United guy out of Utah, comments on the show all the time, but he says, do you think that we're going to have another multi-year championship guy like Rossi or Marquez era, Or are we going to see like 5, 6, competition being so tight, it's going to be difficult to replicate that?
You mean like in terms of winning more than 2 or 3, like to sort of do 6?
Yeah, like win 6,
See, I would have said that in Superbikes years ago, and then Jonathan went and won.
I know that
Superbike's not MotoGP. So I mean,
but still.
I don't know. I mean, it's a difficult one, right? Because I think, people in the past were saying, because Marquez was on the Honda and he wasn't performing, that maybe, Quartararo got lucky and Bagnaia's got lucky because there's no real competition. But then you look now and you see Marquez is on a Ducati, and it's like, well, actually, you know what? I think you need to give a bit of credit to Quartararo back in the day and Joan Mir back in the day, and certainly Pecco the last 2 years. There's nothing wrong with the level of Pecco Bagnaia. Clearly, the guy is the real deal. So I think it's going to be tighter and harder to win. I probably agree with you on that. Is it impossible? I don't know. It's not impossible, is it? But I mean, I think it will be very, very hard to do.
Right.
You just have to be consistent, like you said, and not, like Pecco threw it away in the sprint race thinking he was going to try to get away with it. And he lost the front because he was pushing too hard and it was too greasy of a track. So,
Dude, how about the Trackhouse Aprilia this weekend until it crashed out in the sprint race?
Yeah, Raul was
Fernandez found his form, right? But again, it's funny, isn't it? Because again, a lot of people are saying that maybe he's going to lose his ride and maybe Oliveira is going to lose his ride. And that comes back to the point that we talked about earlier, right? He's only in his second season, and he's still young. Like, come on, guys.
That's why I haven't said that about them. I'm talking about the dudes that have been slogging along.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what team they're on, they're still finishing 10th.
Yeah, I think Alex might be on the chopping block.
Morbidelli for sure.
I will not have anything said about Morbidelli. I'm not standing for it. No, I think Morbidelli will be safe, but I could see, a couple of those guys leaving. But then, as you said, where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? Because certainly someone like a Jack Miller, for example, they're not going to go back to Moto.
I mean, the money that they've been making, those guys, they could go and hang out on a boat. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You know, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, for what it's worth, I think that Marquez will go to the factory Ducati, and I think that Martin.
Really?
Yeah, I think Martin will go to. And I'm not saying this because I'm on the inside.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't know. But my feeling is that Marquez will go to the factory team. That Jorge Martin will go to Aprilia, and I think that Enea Bastianini will go to Gresini. That's just my feeling.
Wow.
That's gonna. So
you're not thinking that. You're not thinking KTM for Martin.
No, because I think they would move Pedro Acosta into the factory team, and I don't think that they would want to lose Brad Binder. And then it's whether or not Martin would accept the Tech 3 team, which although it's a gas, it's not technically the factory team. I don't know.
Right.
I think Jack Miller would probably say to do that, but then who knows? I mean, we could all be wrong, and Jack Miller could end up at Aprilia. I mean, what do we know?
Jack Miller could be a
Morbidelli to Aprilia. Morbidelli to Aprilia.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
What do you think about the chatter about like one of those? Is it going to be Gresini or Pramac going to Yamaha?
I don't think it'll be Gresini.
I'm thinking it'll be Pramac.
If it's going to be anyone, I think it would be Pramac. But again, you're gonna if you were the boss of Pramac and you're going to spend the amount of money that they spend in MotoGP, you would have to be convinced that something is going to change, right?
Well, yeah, are they getting like a bro deal or something? Like,
but I mean, I don't know. Like we said that though, but I mean, look at how quickly some of these other manufacturers did turn around. You know, we're not talking. It's not like back in the old CRT days when Aleix and Randy DePunier were finishing in the top 8 on those. But they were kind of, what were they, 3 or 4 seconds off the pace.
Right.
We're talking, they have to find 2 tenths, 3 tenths to be consistently in the top 10 in qualifying. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot. I mean, it is a lot from a technical point of view.
It's an eternity.
But if they're going to get rid of all of these devices, which is prevented, you know what I mean? Maybe if we go back to sort of less, I don't want to say less technical, because I'm not saying that Yamaha and Honda aren't technical, because they're bloody geniuses in what they've achieved over the years.
More motorbike and less spaceship.
Yeah, you know, if they're going to go back to more of the heritage, let's say, of where these bikes came from and how they were designed,
right?
Is that going to bring them back into the frame? You know, we could be
betting on that.
You know, it could be, you know, you could go into next year. Okay, it's going to be quite similar to this year. Everyone finding their feet, and then all of a sudden the new rules come in, and Ducati could be the ones that are trying to find 9/10 of a second. I mean, it's happened before.
Yes,
before, hasn't it?
I think it was a good point. I think it was a good point when they said freeze everything from now on. Like next year, freeze everything until the new rules come out, so they could spend their money on the new stuff and not have to develop the bikes. You know, they just put a freeze on development. But you know, is Yamaha gonna do the Tech 3 Petronas thing and give them, you know, old bikes or whatever? Because remember, Tech 3 famously, they didn't get any good bikes. They wouldn't get the current year bike or any of that stuff. So
I mean, I don't know what the rules are in MotoGP. I mean, certainly in Superbike, the 3 of us could put our money together and say, right, we want to run a team. You know, it's the weekend hangover Superbike team, and we want to run either. Let's say we want to run the Yamaha. You know, we want to run the BMW. We get in touch with the factory, and there's a price list. And if you want the same bike as Alvaro Bautista, all the Ducatis are the same in essence. It's what level of support you get. So if you
didn't Yamaha didn't want to give them those good bikes?
But that's what I'm saying. I don't know if the rule is the same in MotoGP. In Superbike, the manufacturer.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is, because if everybody else is getting current bikes and they all had, you know, remember the Honda, the LCR team had the current year bike and had the same stuff, but Tech 3 always had. Remember, it was Johan Zarco was complaining he wanted all the new parts. And Yamaha wouldn't give him the parts. And Petronas was in the same boat, except when Rossi showed up, they gave Rossi the good bike and Franco didn't. And it's because Rossi's a Yamaha guy. So they're like, hey, if Rossi's going down, we'll give them the new bike.
Maybe that's something that they would change. I don't know. I know in Superbike for sure you can go to any manufacturer.
Michael, let me pause you for just a second, just because of some shit that you just said. Irate Barry says we should make a race team shirt that says Team Weekend Hangover.
Let's do that. I'm going to be at Mid-Ohio, the Ridge, Kota, and something else. You get the shirt made in a size small, and I'll wear it during one of the Michael Mike segments.
All right, you know what? Do it. That's going to happen. That's going to happen.
We'll do it now. We've got people listening, right? And
oh my God, dude! I got to text my shirt guy.
Let's do it. 100%. We'll get it done.
And then our faces have to be on the back.
Yeah. We have to have bald heads.
You mean like this? I don't know if you can see this. Hang on.
Oh yeah, there. Okay, I see that Michael Hill. Okay, I love it. There we go.
Of course.
I love it.
Oh my God.
I love it.
Yeah. So carry on.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that's probably one of the reasons now in Superbike why it's come good again, right? Because there's a parts list, and if you want the same, as long as you've got the money to pay for it, the manufacturers can't refuse. It's you get the same kit if you want to
look at Remy.
Yeah, if you want the factory mechanics working on the bike, you pay a fee and you get it. You want the data, you get it. You want the wheels, the suspension, the engine, the internal, whatever it is you want. You get it, So
in GP it's got to be a little different because they're saying like Matt Knutsen's saying that 93 is on a 2023 bike, and Jorge Martin's on the same 2024.
Yep.
So but again, what are we talking about? I mean, I understand that, but when you look at the difference, we must be talking the most minute distance, right? Because look at what Marquez is doing.
They're the same fucking bike, just one was made this year.
It's just got a different stamp on the frame, right? I mean,
it's probably got some stuff to it that's not like
it's got bold new graphics.
No, I mean, for sure, there's going to be some difference, but we're not talking half a second a lap, are we? The level.
No, I mean, look, even with the quick release wing on one side, like
Do you believe that when he did that whole race and the wing had fell off, and you just think, geez, that must have been horrific to ride.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm getting text messages already from the shirt comment.
Yes.
Good.
We should get some caps made as well.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Maybe I'll talk to a media guy about that at some point.
Yeah. I think that would be fun. Eh? We should do that. We should do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we should. And you know what we should do? Here we go. Why don't we do this? Let's get the shirts done, and then during the mic on the mic, while I'm going around doing the mic on the mic, we'll get as many riders to sign it. And then we can put it up for a donation for a raffle or an auction for a charity. The Road Racing World Action Fund or something. I don't know. You guys
do that. Was it the Arthritis Foundation?
Whatever you guys feel fit. I don't know.
Oh, the back arthritis.
No, I mean,
that's right. Because
I do that charity bike ride every year, San Francisco to LA.
Why not? Because we're doing it as a bit of fun, but why not? Let's put it to some good use.
It was a
good idea by one of the listeners.
Let's do that.
Let's do it, and let's see if we can get it. Let's see that we can get it signed by as many of the riders as possible during the mic on the mic, and then we'll donate it to whichever charity and raise some money. Let's just put it to some good use.
I'm sending the artwork to Dan the T-shirt guy as soon as this podcast is over.
And I don't know if Irate Barry is calling me an old bastard, or you must be talking about you two because I'm only 26.
He's really talking about me 3 times.
Yeah. I'm just slightly younger than Dustin. I'm 45, so
yeah.
Oh wow! So am I the youngest on the show?
Yeah,
shit. That's good. Man.
Yeah, we had some kid on the show. Fuck, I don't know.
I feel good now. This is great.
I think
I'm still jet lagged after being here for 2 weeks, but this is great. This is good.
Okay, so you asked about the championship. Like, what about this? Who are your picks for the weekend, or can you tell us?
No, I can probably my picks for what for MotoGP or which championship?
No, this weekend. Your day job.
MotoAmerica. I think Ducati are going to be strong. I think Baz or Herrin will be fast. I do genuinely believe that Xavi Forés will be in the podium fight for sure. But I mean, the BMW is so fast, so you can't rule them out. You can never rule out Gagne. I think you're going to have a 4 or 5 rider fight. And if I had to put money on who would win a last lap fight, so if it was going to be between Baz, Herrin, Beaubier, Gagne and SDK in a last lap fight,
and you didn't name CP.
Yeah.
Oh, let's put Cam Peterson. Sorry, apologies to all the Cam Peterson fans. Let's put him in the. Sorry, I just realised I don't want to piss you off. You cut me off the show. I think it would come down to a last lap. If those 6 were in the fight all race, it'll come down to a last lap fight between Beaubier and Gagne and Baz. Baz would go for it for sure, but my money would be on Beaubier.
Who's stuffing who in turn 5?
Wow.
They're going to go.
Baz is stuffing everybody.
How about Super Sport?
See, Super Sport, that's a more tricky one because
like at the beginning of the season, before we knew that Skoltz was going to be on the R6.
Yeah.
I had PJ pegged this just wiping the floor with everybody. But now with Scholz in the mix, it's like,
you see,
and then Blake Davis too.
I was just going to say, right? I mean, I think Blake is growing in stature all the time, and he really impresses me. And Shiloh and Emerson and the guys, they were a really good team. I think, again, it's a horsepower track, Road America. So I would put money on Blake Davis purely and simply because nothing against the riding of the riders, but purely and simply that bike is built by Evan Brothers, and Evan Brothers are 2-time World Supersport champions in the last 4 years. Once with Randy Krummenacher, once with Andrea Locatelli, and they finished second and third in the other years. So for sure, that Yamaha is as top spec as possible.
Whether it is fast.
Do you know who built Scholz's engine?
It's the Squid Hunter guys. Oh, Attack.
You know what though? I mean, I'm not getting drawn into this because I can see what he's doing. I'm just letting you guys have your little banter. But I think if it comes down to, and I mean this with the greatest of respects to Blake, I'm just not sure he's got enough experience. If it came to banging bars in Supersport, sure, in Twins Cup, and I'm not taking nothing away from the kid. And I said I like him from a speed of the bike. I think for sure Blake's bike will be one, if not the fastest, which is for sure at Road America going to put him in the mix, right? Just purely by the nature of the track.
He is a smart racer, though. He is a smart racer. I've known him since he was 9, and I watched him and Kayla race at Josh Heron's on the little 65s. And Blake is down for a fight for sure, but he's a smart kid. His dad's kind of. I
think what a lot of people don't remember as well is that when you talk about PJ and Matthew, they're both former World Supersport stars. A lot of people forget that PJ Jacobsen won a World Supersport race.
Multiple.
Yeah, and he's had podiums, so he's number 2 guy. He's a real fast guy. Scholz as well. Never really on the right opportunity, but he was just starting his career when he was in Supersport. PJ had been there a few years, and then obviously he's been on a superbike for a while, having to readjust. We saw in Barber, the way he was able to preserve the tire in that fight in Barber really impressed me. And I remember sitting down watching, going, he's just got more tire. You could see the way that he was riding, So I think in Supersport you're going to have a fight between those three. And if I had to put money on it, I would probably go towards Scholz.
You don't see Tyler Scott up there?
I'd like to see Tyler Scott up there, but I just think he's making a couple of mistakes, which, that's going to start playing on his head. You would like to, the bike is quick. For sure.
Like how many shots of the confidence is he going to take before the lap time goes down?
Yeah. For sure he's talented. He was at the Shark End all weekend, wasn't he? For sure he's fast. Maxi Girardo as well was fast.
Yes.
Where the fuck did that guy come from, right?
Again, I know him a little bit from Europe, but he never rode like that. Some things, but how many times have we said it? You've probably seen it, Dustin, as well, more than me from being inside a team. If everything just fits, and all of a sudden you've got the belief, and the people around you believe in you, and everyone's happy and smiling. All of a sudden, you're gaining half a second, but you haven't met
Jake Gagne, right?
You don't even know where the half a second came from. And all of a sudden, you're riding free, and everything you do is just easy. And it's like, and that to your point, Ricky, about about Tyler, there's going to be an element of pressure just purely on the team that he's with, and that's part of it, and he knows that, and I'm sure it will come right. But as we said, you don't win championships from being on the floor, and he's been on the floor twice now. That's a lot of points to give away when your nearest rivals are quite.
And he's not just on the floor. Let's just be real. Like he's writing off motorcycles.
Yeah, that one at Barber was brutal,
dude.
Yeah. But again, like you said, you can't give away 25 points or 20 points to Matthew and PJ when like PJ said, I was in the park for me getting ready to do the interviews, and PJ was like, tire went, I couldn't fight him. We'll just take second. And that wasn't broadcast, but that's what he said.
No,
he knows the championship is long. So, and a lot of people don't actually realize PJ's never won a championship.
Nope.
Right.
And I went back through my stats. I do a lot of work prior to going to the races.
He was awfully close in that
very close
in 2019 year on the 600.
Yep. Very
really close.
But I looked back and I was like, he must have won. And I went back all through the BSB days, and I'm like, he won a shit ton of races in Superbike and Super. And I looked, I was like, shit, he never actually won a championship, So it's kind of, he deserves. I mean, whoever wins it this year is going to deserve it, because the
100%.
racing is going to be awesome, you know. So it's going to be really, really good.
And there's no stock 1,000 at Road.
No, I'm disappointed about that.
What do you think of that? Like how they've cut the number of rounds for stock 1,000. I know a lot of the privateer guys are really pissed off about that.
I mean, I understand why they've done it, to try and make it more cost effective, but I think it affects. And they've done something similar in the UK and that as well. The same in Spain. I think it's a 7, or in Italy, I think it's only a 5-round championship now. You know, so they've cut a lot of things. I understand why they've done it, to try and make it easier on the pocket. But in the grand scheme of things, you've got to still build the bike. You know, the expense of building the bike and preparing the engines and everything is still there. So, you know, you're not really.
How much you're spending on that for 5 rounds.
That's what I mean. So the actual ratio in terms of how many times you can run it, and then not everyone can then afford to go and do the.
I guess you're going to have to take those 5 rounds and then go club race bounty hunt the rest of the time.
Yeah. But I think they've done the same also with the Twins Cup, right? And with Junior Cup. And I spoke last year to a couple of sort of family teams in Junior Cup, just to try and understand how it works over here compared to Europe, you know, because I always quite like that insight when I'm doing the show. And you know, just some of the costs alone in terms of hauling their RV with the bike in the back, you know, from Colorado to wherever it was that we were. And they were like, you know, it's about $1,500 just in gas. And I'm like,
it's ridiculous.
What, for the season? And they're like, no, just to get to this race. And I'm like, I've just flown pretty much back and forward across the Atlantic in premium economy for 3/4 of that. That's crazy. Like the amount that you're spending, you know? So it's, you know, I think, and that's probably the biggest thing I didn't realize and anticipate when I joined MotoAmerica and only come into sort of 6 or 7 races.
Right.
Was just how bloody big it is. Like, I can be on a plane and in 45 minutes I'm in the Netherlands. In 50 minutes I'm in France. In 2 hours I'm in Portugal or in Italy, or 90 minutes I'm
Europe.
in Barcelona.
Every country in Europe is basically a suburb of the other.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I just came from Barber, then I went to Atlanta and I flew up to Chicago a couple of days ago, and the flight was 1 hour and 45 minutes. And I'm like, damn, I've just done a flight that would have taken me to Barcelona.
Yeah,
right. And I would have already probably been through immigration or passport control, waiting for my bag in the time that I've only just flown one state. Like that's crazy to me, you know. So
each country has multiple world-class tracks in each country.
Yeah,
France has 2, Portugal has 2. You got Spain has like 5.
Yeah, the UK, I mean, it's probably got 3 or 4, depending if you classify brands. I mean, it's not classified for World Championship bike racing, but they have held
Donington,
Silverstone, you know, big tracks. So, yeah, it's different. I mean, and that's obviously a huge effort, and you know, from a monetary point of view. So when you start looking at these teams, so like I said, I understand why MotoAmerica's tried to keep it to lower the costs.
Yeah,
but that only works if you're in the location or the particular part of the country where you're putting the races. If you're based on the East Coast and all of your 5 races on the West Coast, then you're screwed anyway, aren't you?
Right.
So,
well, it's like with the local guys that show up. I think that's kind of a cool part of it, that I hope there's a bit more local guys showing up. Like a perfect example, a guy I know, Jason Farrell, showed up a couple years ago and won a race. And
he did.
And we ended up filming a movie at Road Atlanta like a month later. And we were all there like, oh my gosh, dude, that was so awesome. And, you know, we were just so stoked for him because he's a local guy. And he won a super sport race, which I know he didn't expect to win. He's always there to perform, you know, to promote his shop, and him and his wife run and everything. Yeah. But like, you know, just the fact that he was up there, and then he's a local legend. He's been racing for well over 20 years, and he did it. And that's awesome. I love seeing it. Gabriel da Silva, a couple of years ago on the super sport bike at Barber, you know, winning a race in the rain and that kind of stuff, I think is great for the local guys to go. But, you know, the multiple teams that are able to go around the country, you know, Daniel brings up a good point with the Honda money.
Yeah.
The Honda money is a big game changer.
Yeah. Honda's definitely filled the paddock, and his Daniel's comment there is like, and it's to you, Mike. What do you think it's going to take for a full factory Honda effort back in MotoAmerica? Or do you think that's even a possibility?
I think, yes, it's a possibility for sure. I know that Honda, certainly in the last few years, have not really shone a spotlight on road racing. They've done more in America in other disciplines of motorcycle sport.
Dirt.
off-road stuff, you know.
Earth for plant and vegetables. Everybody knows that.
You know, which is fine. You know, I've spoken with a couple of people in World Superbikes that are running teams and in Europe, and they seriously looked at coming here. But if there was no support from Honda, it's financially impossible for them to bring a team from Europe to be here. So it would have to be a team that was here. I think that changes a little bit. We see now with the Honda contingency, when that was announced, you see a lot of people switching to Honda.
Right.
Richard Kerr, the Irish guy across, you know, he was the British champion last year, and he's suddenly going, well, actually, that's a little bit more exciting, and it's going to have to be more financially viable for us to ship everything across and go across and race in America than it is to stay in BSB.
Wow.
Purely because of the contingency, you know, it's not at the level.
And he did really well.
He did a really good job, didn't he? Really good job. He's a nice kid. So
I mean, Hayden Gillim, I mean, talking about the money, I talked to Trevor, the Honda dude, and Trevor was telling me that Hayden Gillim walked away with just Honda contingency, 37 G's after Barber. I was like, get the fuck out of here. Really? That's amazing. So there needs to be more of that.
Difference. I mean, I know I talk a lot in the show about how the paddocks are different and the setup is different.
Yeah.
But purely from a contingency point of view, it's completely different. You know, like I know riders in BSB that are finishing top 10 and there's no prize money in the classes that they're running, you know, or they're finishing a race and they're getting £150 prize money. But I mean, I don't know how much tires cost over here, but you're not going to buy a set of tires for £150. It's about $250, right? There's no way you're going to buy a set of tires and that kind of money. So,
that's a rare tire.
Yeah, you know, so it's kind of it's structured very different in the US, and I think it always has been. I mean, I haven't followed it since I was a kid, obviously, but certainly in the last 10 years since I've been involved in racing on a world stage, I've certainly kept an eye on it before I joined the series. So it's definitely structured very differently. The prize money that the riders and the teams can get also from the championship is different. And I think that's kind of testament as well. And again, I'm not paid to say anything good or bad about anybody. It's just my general belief. I think that's testament to the work that MotoAmerica's done. They've brought in some big sponsors. They've managed to retain a lot of the sponsors and manufacturers. Okay, some of them left, but they would have left anyway. That was nothing to do with MotoAmerica. They were pulling out anyway. So, you know, I think that they've done a really good job in growing the series. I think the amount of entries that you now get in the classes. I mean, look at Supersport. I mean, 2 practice groups. I mean, the thing's oversubscribed. So, I mean, you know, they've done a really good job, and I think that's only going to improve. You look at, for example, in Supersport, we were talking about how stackered. Let's go with how stacked the Supersport grid is. But you've got the likes of Roberto Tamburini coming.
Yeah.
Over now, riding Melissa Paris, you know, so there is an eye on it, you know, and I know from speaking to Loris Baz, he didn't come here going, oh God, I've got to go back to MotoAmerica. He's genuinely glad to be back, you know, because he sees it as a challenge. Because
he wants to race Road-America, right?
Yeah, exactly, you know. He wants to go and send it at turn 5 and get that win on the board, you know. But no, I mean, I think, you know, I think the way it's structured is different. I mean, could the series do different things? Yeah, for sure. Like, you know, but then so could the World Championship, you know, so could MotoGP, so could BSB, you know, like we could all sit here with you know, if I was running a series and I was a series director, there'd probably be 3 or 4 things that I would do that isn't currently being done. Whether it would work or not, I don't know. But, you know, they tried it last year. You know, that's one of the things with MotoAmerica that I do like is that they haven't been scared to try things, right? The same with Supersport. Let's just throw in 3 endurance races. And okay, some people liked the idea and some people slated it. But you know what? They tried and then they evaluated it again and went, actually, you know what? Maybe we don't need this. So they scrapped it. World Superbikes did it years ago, didn't they? With the reverse grids and all of this.
I remember that.
And then it doesn't work. Let's get rid of it. So they come, you know.
What do you think about the deleting the Pressure to Rise series?
He's going to keep
that to me, or is that to Ricky?
No, that's to you. He's got to keep his mouth shut.
I can't say.
He can't say.
No, I mean,
like as a fan, like not having that, it sucks. It's because like we were getting an inside look, kind of.
I thought it was so good.
Wasn't it great?
I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed the series. I think, and I don't know the numbers, right? So I don't know how many viewing figures. I mean, I'm sure there was I mean, again, and I'm not saying this because I'm party to any information. I think as a fan not having it, I think for sure is going to be an issue. But then on the other side, you don't know how many people were watching it. You know, those kind of programs, I know from stuff that I've done with things when I've made documentaries, they're not cheap. It's not cheap to produce something, and it was a high level, right? It wasn't just shot on a couple of iPhones and put it together. You know, it was a well put together series. So, you know, there will have been a decision made, and there was a decision made, and it's obviously being canned. But I think that they're actually, from what I've seen in Atlanta, I wasn't there, but I watched the show, and obviously being involved and different things that they've changed with the Live Plus, and they've invested in a different system, and they're doing this preview show now, and they're following and creating lots of different documentaries. I think as the season goes on, I think fans will still get that kind of content. I think it'll just be delivered in a different way.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Well, dude,
I got away with that one.
You're like way past your bedtime.
Yeah,
like,
I know. Can you believe we've been nearly talking for like an hour and 40 minutes? And at the beginning of the week, I was like, I'm so structured with when I go to bed.
We stop for an hour. We usually stop at an hour, but dude, so much gold was coming out of your face. We just kept letting you go, dude.
We gotta enjoy it.
And I kind of broke my own rule because, again, like I said to earlier on, and I've been I was meant to be on the show last week, and I was like, I can't do it at that time because I'm going to be in Atlanta, and I'm normally in bed at this. And that's what I'm saying. I am boring. Like, I'm so strict with when I go to bed and what I eat for breakfast. I'm like, so the fact that we've even stayed up and I haven't kind of gone, come on, guys. I mean, I've loved it. It's been so cool being on the show. It's been amazing being on the show, and I've given a bit more away of my personal side that I never like to give, but I felt comfortable doing it, man. It was so cool. And you guys are fucking crazy. So
thanks.
Thank you. Yeah,
I guess thanks. Wish you the best of luck this weekend. I hope I hope you get smiles on a bunch of kids' faces.
Yeah.
And yes, I will be as soon as the show ends. I'm not shitting you. Like, as soon as the show ends, I'm emailing Dan the T-shirt man and getting him going for the weekend hangover shirt. What colors should it be?
It should be white.
It should be white, and the writing should be in orange because orange is my favorite color. So
it's gonna look that logo, whatever that is.
Perfect. Yeah,
I'm colorblind. Is that orange?
I guess it's either got to be white or it's got to be black, right? It's gonna pop on both. So white or black.
I think white because the black Sharpie. Everybody's got a black Sharpie. So
okay.
Yeah, let's do that. And 100%. If you're going to be, I say,
I'll be in touch with you and find out where I got to send it.
Yeah, so my next race,
or I'll throw it in the truck.
Yeah, throw it in the truck.
Yeah, and I'll just tell them I'll come and pick it up, and we'll pick it up on So I'm going to be, obviously I do Barber, then I do Mid Ohio, I do Cota, I'm missing something, the Ridge, and one other one I can't remember. I don't do Brainerd. I miss Brainerd, but then I'm back after that. So we'll work it out which one it's going to be, and then I can promote it on my socials as well. And
perfect.
Yeah, we'll get everyone signing it, and let's raise some money for charity. And
awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And dude, Ricky Bobby, wrap it up, dude.
Well, everybody, it was an awesome conversation. Really had a great time with Michael. Appreciate you coming. I think it's great for our viewers to finally get somebody that, we all enjoy listening to, comment on the races and stuff like that. So thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Right on, man.
See you around America.
Yeah. See you guys next time. Yeah.